Good morning. Today is Wednesday, May the 19th, 2021. I'm Ms. Shepherd, and we are here to share with you to offer a Buddhist service. We're glad you've joined us. Where I am today, it has been raining, which is wonderful because it had been so dry here and the garden really needed some water. I hope that the gardens at the institution where you are starting to bloom. They are often quite beautiful, and I assume quite a lift to see the lovely flowers growing. So maybe I'll let Ms. Ross say hello, and then we'll talk about our plan for the day.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ms. Shepherd. Yeah, just grateful to be able to be here with you again. As always, I'm thinking of you all, hoping that things might be getting a little bit better with the vaccine coming through the system, maybe decreasing the anxiety just a tiny bit. We miss you all and just look forward to that day when we can get back in person. But meanwhile, we're here to practice with you and hopefully offer something that would be helpful. So Ms. Shepherd, what's the plan for the day?
Yeah. And hopefully maybe things are opening a bit more there as well. Maybe you have a bit more ability to be moving around, I hope. So the plan for the day is, as usual, we'll do a chant. I'll light the candles, then we'll do a chant and a guided meditation, then we'll have a little conversation and hopefully have time for a short chant at the end as well. So on the shrine today, you'll see a new little friend. I decided not to take him down. That's a little bunny rabbit I knit. As I was telling Miss Ross, I will become a grandmother in July. And so that's a little bunny rabbit that's for my new grandson once he's born. So I've been keeping him there and I thought, I'm not going to take him off. I'm going to leave him right there on the shrine. So let's go light the candles. Now let us chant the reflections on universal well-being. May I abide in well-being, in freedom from affliction, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may I maintain well-being in myself. May everyone abide in well-being, in freedom from hostility, in freedom from ill will, in freedom from anxiety, and may they maintain well-being in themselves. May all beings be released from all suffering, and may they not be parted from the good fortune they have attained. When they act upon intention, all beings are the owners of their action and inherit its results. Their future is born from such action, companion to such action, and its results will be their home. All actions with intention, be they skillful or harmful, of such acts they will be the air. So beginning the meditation, perhaps just bringing these words of the chant into mind. I was recently on a retreat a Zoom retreat where we chanted this, and somehow I heard it anew. I'm quite used to it. I know it well, but I sort of heard it again, fresh. And it was very heartfelt. It was so beautiful. So to consider what it might be like for yourself to abide in well-being, to feel free from hostility and ill will and anxiety and affliction of any sort, to feel well-being in yourself, and then to wish that same sort of well-being to all others. What an easeful, open-hearted sense that might offer you. So just a further reflection, perhaps, to begin the meditation. So as you sit and settle in this moment, notice any sense of trying to make things different than they are, and see if you can release that. Let go of the trying. And just allow yourself to just be here now with whatever else is present. Not pushing anything away, not clinging to anything. We often have expectations or ideas about what meditation is or should be. Maybe let go of all of that for this next bit of time. And just consider what it would be to be here with whatever is occurring. Not requiring anything of yourself, anything of the environment, anything of others. Just receiving whatever is present without adding judgments, thoughts, worries, memories, none of it. Just taking in this moment, moment by moment. Using the breath as the anchor to help us stay right here. Sometimes meditation is described as being nobody, going nowhere, doing nothing, just sitting. In the Zen tradition, they talk about just sitting. Sometimes calling it meditation makes us add all kinds of ideas about what it is or what it should be or what I should be getting or not getting or doing or not doing. And for now, drop all of that and just be a living being sitting in the moment wherever you are. Not adding to it, not resisting it. Breathing, alive, receptive, but letting it all flow through. Getting a sense of the ease of that. not having to make it anything other than it is. The freedom of that. However it is okay. Doesn't need to be fixed. You don't need to be fixed. The world doesn't need to be fixed. You're just a living being breathing in this moment. As ideas about what should be or what you wish it could be or what you don't want it to be arise, just know that they've arisen. You don't have to react to them. You definitely don't have to act on them. Just know they've arisen. And if you don't buy into them, they'll pass. Just a thought arising, it will cease. Letting go of all the expectations, wishes, demands, shoulds, how this should be, how I should be, how the meditation should be. Letting it all go. Being nobody, going nowhere. Just sitting. Just a body breathing. A mind thinking, but not in charge. Maybe a heart opening to this moment. Willing to be here, just as it is. If you notice parts not willing to be here, is there some contraction, some tightening that might be released, might be loosened, softened, opened? Just relating to this moment and this body, however it is. Giving yourself that break, that rest, that opportunity just to be here now. A living, breathing being. That's all that's being asked. So, thank you for being here. Trying to get the screen right here. Maybe I need to pin. Sorry. Fix how to do this. There we go. So, I hope the meditation was interesting, fruitful in the sense of learning, that our meditation is always about learning, or what one teacher talks about in terms of attuning to the moment, just attuning to whatever is present. So what I thought I'd talk about today was generated by a short reading I want to share with you. And it's on working with difficult emotions, but it's framed in terms of, well, it's a teaching that was given to monks by a monk. So what was particularly interesting, in addition to just working with difficult emotions, which is always interesting, was that what he talks about is this experience of being in a monastery. And clearly there are very big differences between being in a monastery and being incarcerated. You are not able to leave. You do not have the choice to be there. That's huge. That's a major, significant, inescapable issue, difference from any other situation. And there are some aspects of being, some small ones, but some of being in the sort of setting where you are that are somewhat similar to being in a monastery. And one of them is that you don't have the choice about who you live with. In a monastery, someone goes because of their spiritual desires. They want to develop their spiritual life. They want to be in a community of other people doing that. But you don't get to choose the other people. And some of the other people might be not at all who you would choose to live with. But your choice is either you get to develop your spiritual life in that way, or you have to live with these people. If you leave because you can't stand the people, then you're not able to develop your spiritual life. So generally, people decide to stay. But it's not easy to live in a community that you have not selected or chosen. So that's really what this talk is kind of aimed at. But I think it's very appropriate to your setting as well, where you also are surrounded by people you have not chosen to live with. People you wouldn't not only choose to live with, maybe you wouldn't even choose to associate with, had you not been where you are now. So this was interesting to me in the commonality, and I hope it feels that way to you. So this is by a monk named Ajahn Viradamo. He is Canadian by birth, and he now is an abbot in a Canadian monastery. And so let me read it and then we can talk some more. And it's titled Working with Difficult Emotions. So he says, it's not that you don't sometimes feel negative, or at least conflicting emotions towards others in the monastery, or in any other type of relationship. You do feel them. However, the task is to make them conscious and see them for what they are. Experiencing difficult emotions is normal, but those emotions are not to be believed or pursued. Instead, they're to be known for what they are: changing conditions, changing mental phenomena that can trigger a reaction in us. Once we recognize that a difficult emotion is nothing more than a changing condition, this allows it to end. And how does something in the mind come to an end? It ends when the mind doesn't react to it, when the mind doesn't put energy into it. That's actually very much what I was trying to suggest in the opening meditation, to just see those things, but not put energy into them. So he continues, one of the larger monasteries, like Wat Pah Pong, that's a monastery in Thailand, and it's very large. I think it has 200 people. Oh, here he's saying, I think Wat Pah Pong has closer to 100 people. He's saying you might have 20, 30, or 50 monks living there at one time. There's a monastery in England that has usually 80 monks living there at one time. As monastics, we have to learn how to be friends, even with someone who, in quotes, gets up our nose. That's an interesting situation because all the monks are good people. So the first part of the practice is to watch the tendency to be judgmental. The next part of the practice is to respond to the other person in a spirit of friendliness and caring, rather than judgment and cynicism. It's lovely that we can consciously make those kinds of choices. This enables us to use interpersonal conflicts as a way of training the mind. We can actually focus on difficult relationships at work, at the monastery, in the prison, or with family, and use it to make our negative habits of mind conscious. Say, for instance, that monk A or monk B is making me feel annoyed or intimidated. Rather than simply shying away from them or blaming myself or them for the fact that I'm feeling this way, I can learn more about the feeling. When an interaction with this person triggers in me some egotistical, self-centered, or negative state of mind, I can reflect, okay, this is what arrogance, annoyance, dislike, or inferiority feels like. In effect, this conscious knowing, which includes being aware of how this negative mind state feels in the body, allows the mind state to emerge into consciousness. And when it is in consciousness, that allows it to cease. So this spoke to me, both because of the teaching and because in the situation where you are, you don't have a lot of choice who you associate with. And that's very challenging. That is a challenging practice for anyone. And so having some tools to work with those negative responses that will arise is a great gift, because we all need them. You'll need them, I need them, everyone needs them, because our minds do generate those sorts of feelings and responses and reactions and negativities and judgments. And if we feed them, if we aren't aware of them and we just let them grow and build and act on them, they lead us to suffering. They lead us to doing things we wish we hadn't done. They lead us to causing harm for ourselves and others. So what he's suggesting is that the way we work with those, so we don't have to get rid of them in the sense, we don't have to never do that. Our minds may do that at times, but just to learn that we can recognize, oh, that's what's happening. What's happening here is ill will. What's happening here is fear. What's happening here is judgment. And then to allow it to fully emerge, to feel it in the body, to notice what happens to our body when those arise. Generally, it's a constriction. To breathe. And when we can be fully aware of it, that's the opportunity for wisdom to consider, what do I do knowing that this mind state has arisen, that that person might represent a risk to me, that I might represent a risk to them? How might I respond? Is this the time when I need to figure out how to leave? If I'm in the day room, can I go back to my cell? If I'm in my cell with my cellie, do I need to make sure I don't say anything more? How do I de-escalate the situation if it's getting tense. So giving yourself this ability to recognize what's arisen, not identify with it, not say this is me, but just to know, oh, okay, this is a feeling of judgment. This is a feeling of anger. This is a feeling of annoyance. How does it respond in the body? Can I breathe? Because when we don't identify with it, when we don't make it our own in that sense, we give it the space to cease just as it has arisen. You didn't order it, it just arose. It will cease as well if we don't hold it, if we don't grasp onto it. So all of our practice is seeing about allowing, attuning to what's happening, noticing the impact in our own bodies, helping our bodies to open. So, because when the body opens, the heart opens, there's room for wisdom to come in. When the body is shut down, no room for wisdom. All there's room for is protection, defense, closing down, fear. Opening leaves room for recognizing the other options of kindness to ourselves and others, options of compassion to ourselves and others, options of generosity, options of restraint, just waiting. And none of this means, if you're in danger, you need to respond. That's not what this is about. Of course you respond if you are in danger. Of course you have the right to protect and care for yourself. But oftentimes those kick in more quickly than needed. And that these other options give us opportunities maybe we hadn't recognized before. Because sometimes the whole situation is just something we've built up in our head. And if we can allow it to cease in our head, it's not even real. We've imagined what that other person maybe was thinking or doing or expecting. And if we can just see that and withdraw, the whole story just evaporates. Maybe I'll stop there and hear from Miss Ross. There's one story that somebody shared with me at another institution that maybe I'll share after we hear from Miss Ross. So Miss Ross, working with difficult emotions, any thoughts?
Yeah, thanks for this. It's really interesting that you raised this topic today, because this past week I've been thinking a lot about, having doubt about what is this meditate? We're sitting here alone meditating. Why are we, you get in that doubt mode? And I did some reading, and it reminded me that what we're doing when we're meditating is we are practicing to be in relationship with others. We're doing this in this quiet space, watching our own minds. But it really is, first of all, what we're watching is a relationship of our mind to itself. So we're looking at our relationship to ourself, right? There's the wise self, the calm self, and then there's that crazy self that goes off in fear and desire and shuts down. And that's really what Ms. Shepherd is talking about here, is watching that crazy self. And then there's that wise self that is quiet. So it's not always a loudmouth, right? It's not always going to take control, but it needs to be present enough that can just say, honey, not now. So that we can calm down that desire to react or to hate or to want or to shut down. And so we can watch this in our own mind, our relationship with ourselves. And what you were describing about judging other people, how many times do we judge ourselves? We start there. We can watch all the not good enough, I'm not meditating right, I can't do this, remembering what you did 10 years ago and beating yourself up about that. And you can watch all that about our relationship to ourselves. And then what we're training in meditation to do is to remember, like mindfulness, part of the component of mindfulness is being present with what's happening now, but also remembering, oh, is this helpful or not? And if we drop into the body, like Ms. Shepherd was talking about, we can notice like, oh, like totally tense, this is probably not helpful. So getting out of the story of the situation, and we're training the mind to drop into the body, the wisdom of the body that says, oh, the warning signs are going up in the body, time to pay attention. And can we just be with this? And so we can do this on the cushion over and over again, watching the flags come up, watching the body tense up, and then watching that wise mind going, oh, probably not such a good idea. Let's just sit with this and not keep feeding that fire. And so we do that on the cushion. And then, as Ms. Shepherd was talking about, then we can take it, out into the world. We have this ability to notice, oh, the body's tensing up. What's going on? Oh, so-and-so just said something, or there was a sound jangling keys down the hall, and all of a sudden I'm tense, so if we learn to be with how the body is, that tells us how the mind is, and then we can notice when we're triggered. And our training, again, in our meditation practice, where we've learned over and over again, just come back, it's like this. And then we have the clarity to know if there is something we need to do. But a lot of times we're just building something in our head. The action that's needed is nothing. But if there is something, we can be calm enough to know, oh, this might be helpful. Oh, stop triggering my celly, stop asking him to shut up, like that might be helpful. So this is our practice, and we do it on the cushion in sort of controlled circumstances, so that we then can be in relationship to ourselves and to others in hopefully a more helpful way, by letting the wisdom of the body and its tension or non-tension telling us whether what we're doing is helpful or not. So yeah, totally. So what's the story? I want to know the story.
Okay. Yeah, I'll tell the story. And, also that you're in a difficult place, an incredibly difficult place to be. And that the lessons that you learn in that place are lessons that will be applicable even when you're not there, even when you are in the free world, as you sometimes refer to it. That even when you're no longer there, hopefully sooner than later, you'll be in settings, in a work setting with people you don't like, or the people you don't understand, or you'll go to the store and somebody, there'll be a nasty clerk, or you'll have to work with some, the motor vehicle division and have some conflict with them. So these are these skills that you're forced to develop because of the close proximity you are living in with other people, are actually incredibly valuable skills that will serve you in any other setting you face in the rest of your life. So to not make that, I don't know how to say it. That's maybe not how you would have wished to learn those skills, but you're actually learning incredibly useful skills to live and to get along in a world where everybody isn't you and doesn't think the way you think. So the story was a story that somebody told me at a different institution. And it was just so impressive. I was so touched by it, so moved by this person's wisdom. So this guy, he was in a prison. It's a medium prison. And he talked about how one morning he went to the place where they wash up. And I don't know how similar these are from institution to institution, but the way he described it, of course, I've never seen it. The way he described it was that after the shower, I think it was after after working out, that was it. He had been working out and he went into the bathroom, I guess. And he described it as that there are a lot of sinks next to each other and that next to each sink, there's a hook. And, people put like their towel on the hook. So he was washing up. He had put his towel up on the hook next to the sink where he was. And he was washing up. And this guy, somebody he didn't know, came in with sort of very much a kind of aggressive attitude and said, I'm trying to remember the story. Hold on. Let me think whether he said something. I think he said, take the towel down. I want to use that hook. And the guy kind of looked at it and, because it didn't make any sense. It was the hook for that sink and he was using that sink. So he sort of ignored him and just kept washing. And so the guy grabbed the towel and took it off and threw it on the floor. Clearly an aggressive action, right? An action that easily could have generated a fight, right? Touching somebody else's property. I know that's a big deal in prison. Getting into somebody else's space, another big deal where you are. But this guy, so for the moment, he just kept washing his face and hands. And then he took a breath. He leaned over, he picked up the towel, and he decided to leave. He left. Of course, avoiding what could have been a terrible altercation. And the other guy just, moved in and washed, and that was the end of it. So I asked him, how did you know to do that? How did you know not to just stand your ground and say, wait a minute, that's my hook, and what are you doing? Getting into a fight. And he said, I don't know. I just thought, maybe his grandma just died. Maybe something awful had happened. He clearly looked like there was something on his mind. This guy was not feeling right. And so I decided to just give him some space. And the amazing end of this story is that the next day, the guy who had grabbed the towel came over to the first guy and actually thanked him, said, thanks, I had a bad day. And, I don't know why I did that. So just sometimes maybe that's not the right thing to do. I'm not saying that's always the right thing to do, but to recognize that sometimes maybe it is the right thing to do. And I know that, you have to stand up and you can't look weak and all that. But it doesn't necessarily look weak just to say, not something I want to get involved in. No reason for me to do that. I'm finished washing. I'd rather you hadn't thrown my towel on the ground. But maybe not the time to make that point. It just was such a compassionate, together, grounded kind of response to not get caught up in who the hell does he think he is, and why is he dissing me, and which is clearly the way many of us respond, right? I would first, but somehow he could see that arise and not follow that. Instead, try to give some space and say, let me see if there's another option right here. And it's not even about responding to the other guy. It's the difficult emotion in his own mind that he was able to work with that was so impressive. I'm sure some difficult emotions arose for him. Why am I being disrespected? And, I don't like this, and it's not what I want. And those are difficult emotions in his own mind. And he was able to feel them and not necessarily go with them. Just say, oh, there's that feeling of, being disrespected, or feeling of being pushed around, or a feeling of fear, or whatever had happened is that arose for him. And he didn't have to go with it. He didn't have to believe it or disbelieve it. He could just let it arise and see what would happen next, and it could cease. So hopefully this makes some sense. So it really, what it's not is an instruction on how to always respond. It's not that at all. It's not saying one should always do this or one should always do that, or only be kind. Or that's not what it's saying. What it's saying is we're learning to know what's arising in the mind, give it space, see if it needs to be followed or if it can just pass. It's awareness. It's developing awareness and attunement. It's not proposing shoulds. I think that's the hardest thing to get about this practice. It really isn't about shoulds. You should always be like this, or you should always be peaceful, you should always be kind, or you should always be this. Instead, it's saying what the only should is you should be aware. You should know what's happening. You should be awake, because then you have the ability to bring wisdom to what's happening in that moment, not to your memories, not to your fears. So that's the story. And he was very inspiring to me. I'll never forget his story.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that is the thing, like you said, that's why people do get frustrated with the practice, because, well, just like, tell me what I need to do. It's like the American way, right? Like, what pill can I take to make this go away? Or, what book can I read that's going to solve all my problems? Or, and all right, what's the teaching the Buddha gave? Well, so the teaching he gave was the Four Noble Truths, which is noticing when there's stress, so we have to be paying attention to notice when we have stress. And then what we're doing is learning to observe what the cause of that stress is. And it's when we're holding on to these feelings, to this desire to want something or to not want something, or the desire to disappear. And, it's like, this is what I have to have, this will fix it all. And, letting go of that and knowing that it's just another thought, but it's what's causing tension. And then we can watch it just move on, or we can notice if there's something that might be helpful. But it's that mindfulness part of knowing what's happening now, but also knowing the remembering component of mindfulness is remembering to notice, is this helpful or not helpful? And we try something and then we notice, was that helpful or not? And then we try something else, if that didn't work. So we have to keep making minor adjustments. It's kind of like driving a car, like you're not always heading in one direction. Sometimes, you have to go around a pothole or something, like that's what we're doing. We're constantly making adjustments, and we have to pay attention. And it's not a one size fits all, but it allows us to, keep making our way down the road. So yeah, it's great.
So let's end with another brief meditation.
Sure.
Do you want to lead us in another brief meditation?
Yeah. So ring the bell just to transition us. The fading of the sound of the bell, we can just come into our awareness of shifting gears, closing the eyes if we feel like we want to, or just having a soft gaze, and just checking in. How is it right now with this mind and this body? And there's a lot of words, a lot of ideas. How is this mind body receiving them, responding to them? What's the energy level of the mind? Is it trying to remember? Is it kind of arguing in your head about what was just said? Or is it, now that it's quiet, mind's checking out? So what's the feeling in the mind? It's the energy, outward, inward, shutting down. The mind is like this. And the body, how's the body? Is there a sense of ease or a sense of tension? And if there is tension, where do we hold it? Can we bring the awareness there? The eyes, the jaw, the neck, the shoulders, the back. Where do we hold tension? And bring the awareness. What happens? Sometimes the tension releases just when we're aware of it. So in our practice, we're training to notice how it is right now in this moment, how the mind is, whether it's at ease or whether it's tense because of wanting or not wanting something, or whether the mind is checked out, just noticing how it is in this moment, and how the body is. If the mind is agitated, is the body agitated? If the mind is calm, is the body calm? Not judging, just allowing. It's like this right now. And using our wisdom to know, can it just be okay? Or is there something else that might be helpful? Breathing, releasing tension. What might be helpful? Otherwise, just receiving. It's like this, right here, right now. Can this be okay? Bringing the awareness back to surroundings, back to Miss Shepherd and I with you.
Thank you, Ms. Ross.
Back to you.
So have a good few weeks. I think we'll record again in 3 weeks. We have to skip a week in the next session, so we'll be sending a video then. And in the meantime, just think of your practice as being in a monastery, being there able to develop the practice under conditions that aren't ideal, because there are no ideal conditions in the world. And if we could spend our life looking for ideal conditions and never find them. So how do we make the conditions we have the conditions that support what we really care about, which is finding some ease, some clarity, some happiness in our own life right here, right now. And I hope you are able to do that, even for moments now and again. Ms. Ross.
Yeah, it's our practice. I don't know about you guys, but this is what I'm doing, exactly what Ms. Shepherd just described. There is no ideal place, no ideal conditions. but it is like this, and how we relate to it is just so important. So I just hope something that we said today was helpful to you in your practice, and just know that, we are thinking of you and hoping your practice is helping to support you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Ms. Ross. And, we've all been given the gift of life, the gift of air that we can breathe for free. Those are enormous, precious gifts. So how can we use them in the best way possible? So thank you for your practice, for your interest, for the kindnesses that I know you do every day. I've seen them when I'm there. It's really quite inspiring and wonderful to see the way in which people do take care of each other, even in a very, very stressful situation as you are in. It's a beautiful thing. So thank you for doing that for each other. So have a good few weeks. I hope the flowers in the plantings around the institution are growing and that you get a chance to see them and watch them and breathe the fresh rain air. And we'll see you in a few weeks. Oh, we have to do our dedication. Sorry. Actually, I have a longer one I thought I might share this time. It's kind of nice. It's called This Wonderful, it sort of relates to what we're talking about, this wonderful opportunity. May all beings, seen and unseen, be well, happy, and peaceful, including ourselves. May there be peace in the world, peace in our hearts, peace in our minds. May we use this wonderful opportunity of human life to awaken. May we be grateful for wisdom and compassion, this infinite boundlessness that surrounds us, waiting to be used by us to open our hearts and minds so that we may see things as they truly are. How brief our lives, how dependent upon others we are. And so with each act, may we bring wholesomeness, humility, and the courage to do no harm, not least of all to ourselves. As we journey through this life, may we move deeper into insight and see things as they truly are, this wonderful opportunity to awaken. Maybe we be grateful for the teachers in all their guises who appear before us. Maybe those are our friends and our fellow inmates. May we love those who are hardest to love, including ourselves. May leaders who work for the peace of the planet step forward, and may we support them. May those who have gone before us rest in peace, rest in comfort, rest in joy. And may we remember to remember them. May the next life be a happy one. May we cultivate in our hearts, in our minds, here and now, here on earth, generosity, a land of plenty for all. May we wish for peace spread like a mother's soothing hand and reach the distressed, fevered places of the world and protect each child the right to be fed, to be sheltered, to be schooled, the right to go to sleep without fear. May we journey safely, work contentedly, and return home to loved ones well and happy. May the path of forgiveness and acceptance be the path of peace, and may we find it. May we use this wonderful opportunity to awaken and together find true happiness, open spaciousness without borders. Take care. See you in a few weeks. Be well.